Hello, my name is David Lee. Today, I'd like to show you how to deploy your serverless GraphQL API hosted into Azure. This is the second part of the demo that I have done previously on how to get started with Eklee-Azure-Functions-GraphQL. So let's get started. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to validate that our application is working locally. So on the last demo, I had shown us how to get started and test the application, which is a quiz application that is running locally. So what we'll do is we'll go to the localhost 4200, and we'll make sure that the front end and the back end are working fine. And as we can see, the application loaded, we can see activity on the back end represented by all this log messages. And we can see that the data did load. We did see AZ300, which is a entry we had created last time. So first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a resource group. And in this resource group, we're just going to call it demo GraphQL. I'm going to create that in East US. I'm going to copy this name because I'm going to use that later. I'm going to create that resource group. I'm going to go to my resource group. And then I'm going to start adding a Azure function. So I'll just type in function and see that popping up right away. Okay, click create on the function app, and we're going to name the function app with a similar name as what we have as the resource group name. This is going to be a .NET Core application. It's going to be in East US, which is the same location as where our resource group is. Click on hosting, create a storage account with the same name. Consumption plan, it's a Windows application. And I'm going to hit create. Very good. So I am going to pause the video here for a moment while the deployment is going on, and I'll be back when it is done. Looks like our application has been deployed. So we'll go to our application stack. All right, so we have the Azure Functions running right now. And from here, we'll go ahead and start working on the deployment for the backend and the front end. So first of all, let's go ahead and stop the application from running locally. And we also don't need front end. All right, very good. So let's go ahead and bring up a console window. Let's navigate to the backend. Right, so we have that application there. We're going to do a .NET publish -o. It's going to do a release -c for release -o. Let's do demo. Again, release. So here we can see that I am doing a .NET publish on this .NET application and pushing it out to this folder called backend release. So let's do that. I'm gonna pause the video and then I'll be back when the build is completed. Okay, so the build did complete, but we were getting a warning. However, this is just a warning, but the binaries are still being created. So let's take a look at the backend release folder, and we can see the output for our build. So what we're going to do here is going to take this build here, and we're going to zip it up. And essentially, we can just call it any name. I'm just going to call it deploy.zip. And if we go to deploy.zip file, we can see all the different files and folders that we're wanting to release. So we'll now go back to the portal, and we actually had a connection refresh. So we're going to do that. All right, here we want to go to platform features, and we want to use this kudu tool to deploy our code. All right, so we're going to go to tools, zip push deploy. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a zip deploy by dragging and dropping the file here. And what Azure will do, or what Kudu will do, is automatically deploy those files into the root folder. And that will take a moment to complete. And there's a little progress bar right here that is showing us the deployment. All right, so it looks like it is completed, and we can go back to the Azure portal, and we'll do a refresh here. And we should see our two functions. Yep, and we do see the graph and read-only graph serverless API front end appearing. So in this context, we now need to configure our application. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go to configuration and just check the configuration there. All right, so there's a bunch of settings already in place, but we'll actually need to configure a bunch of connections. So if we recall from the application, there is this connection and prefix and security settings that we need to set. So we're going to go here, copy that, do new application setting, make that connection. Apologize. Let's go come here. So this is the connection to the storage account, right? And we actually have that already. So what I'm going to do is take a notepad, and what I'm going to do is take this value here, and cancel that. New application setting, connection. Click OK here. All right, so that sets the connection. Next, we're going to set the prefix. So this is essentially just a prefix to the table storage. We'll just take that. New application settings, and call it prod perhaps. And click OK. And do an application setting, security. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a colon to represent the nested nature of the setting. So take that value and put it here. Take security again. um, Azure. All right, so we'll go back here and take the okay. We'll do our last setting. Security. And click OK here. All right. So there is the settings, and we'll go ahead and hit save here. All right, very good. So the settings are in place, and we will go back to the application itself. There's one more settings that we need to do. And for now, we'll just allow everything, but later on, we will need to specify the front end portal website. So I'm going to hit save here. All right, so it's being saved. Now we need to go back and deploy our front end code. So for specifying the output path, the first thing that we need to do is we need to go back to the front end application, and we need to define a specific environment file for the production release. So we're just going to call a file called environment.prod.ts, right? And this file would actually have similar content here, except the URL would be different. So to find out what's the URL that we're going to be replacing here, simply we will go back to the function application, and we'll copy this URL here, go back to the front end, and we'll replace the localhost 7071 with this URL endpoint. All right, and that's what it's going to be used in the front end. So after we do that, let's make sure that all the settings are correct, and they should be. All right. So one of the things that we're going to do a little bit differently is actually, let's see. Yeah, we probably don't need to do that. So we can go ahead and do ng build dash dash prod equals to true dash dash output path equals to front end release, hit enter. All right, so I'm just gonna pause the video here for a moment while it builds. All right, it looks like the build did complete successfully. And now we can go to our storage account to create a website, a static website. So let's go back to the portal. We'll click on demo GraphQL. Now we should be able to search for a static website by just typing static here. And if we don't actually see it, we actually need to make sure that we are using v2 of the account type. So because this is general purpose of v1, what we have to do is we have to go to configuration, and we're going to have to do upgrade to V2. We're going to type in the name of the account. All right, so we've successfully upgraded to V2. And so if we come back here and we search for static, yep, we do see static websites. Click on that. We're going to enable. I'm going to use index.html. So we're going to hit save here. All right, so notice that this is the primary endpoint. So this is where we're going to be accessing our application. I'm going to clear that out. And we'll go back to the storage account. So we should have a container with $web, and we do. All right, so now we can go ahead and upload the files that we were building. So here you can see that we were deploying to this folder called front-end release, and go ahead and select all the files, click open, and go ahead and upload all the files. All right, so before we can test out the site, we'll need to go and update our app registration. So if you recall earlier, we created this app registration called My Simple Demo. We're going to come here. We're going to go to redirect URIs, and we're going to allow for redirect to this particular, URI. So we're going to hit save here. All right, very good. So let's go ahead and open up a browser, and we should be able to test this URL. All right, so there appears to be a permission issue. We'll just click OK here. So to debug what the permission issue is about, let's go ahead and do Chrome debugging. And we can see that we are still being blocked by cores. So what this means is we'll have to go back to our Azure portal, go to the demo GraphQL function app, and we'll look for cores here. Okay. All right, so one of the things that we need to be aware of is if we're going to use star, we need to remove all the rest of the URLs here. Now, in this case, we already have the URL for the front-end application that we want to allow in. So we'll just add that in here and hit save. All right, very good. So we'll go back and we'll close this guy and we'll do a refresh. And hopefully this time we won't see the course error. All right, very good. So looks like it loaded fine. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to quizzes. We're going to add a quiz. This time we'll do AZ301. We'll save that it's public. We're going to save changes. And we're going to look at the network traffic real quick. And as we can see, there's a bunch of GraphQL queries that are happening here. So this shows that we are connected to the backend. And let's go ahead and go to the storage account. Go to overview. And here I like to kind of go to tables. And we can see that the Azure Table Storage is the API itself, the GraphQL API itself is creating the database for us. We can actually check out the data. We'll use Storage Explorer preview right here. We'll go to quiz, and we can see the data structure, and we can see that it's creating the AZ301 entry for us. So this shows that we're connected to the backend, we're connected through the API, and we're creating the entries. So everything looks good. So this concludes the part of the demo, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much.